Well, I had a little run-in with my cattle over the weekend, and I guess they've been watching us play and got head-butted. So I've got a bad eye that I didn't think would be particularly enjoyable for people when they were looking at my pretty face in a live interview. But more importantly, it's full of blood, and I get dizzy, and so it's not easy to be upright and be in a normal function. But other than that, I'm doing great.
Hey, y'all. It's a Too Much Dip podcast. I'm Dave. I'm going to host. I'm going to direct things. I'm going to work the board. I'm going to do some podcasting. Joining me in studio, Dylan Shivery.
Well, I just couldn't possibly be happier to be here, David, on this fine Monday afternoon. After another excellent week of college football, and perhaps an even bigger one coming up, especially if you are in the city of Austin. So it's a great time to be alive in Austin, Texas, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Randy, do you agree? Producer Randy, ladies and gentlemen.
I would agree. I watched the second half of the Texas OU game. That's all the sports I watched this weekend.
You're a bigger Texas fan than Purdue fan at this point, I think.
Well, it's kind of easy.
I'm tired of people switching their fandoms.
It's kind of easy rooting for the number one team in the country and not the team that's a 1-7 or something like that.
Yeah.
Wow. Through thick and thin. Come on, man. What are you doing?
I'm still a fan, just not going to watch.
I get it. I totally get it. There was a fourth quarter I didn't watch yesterday. More on that later. Hey, here we go. Oh, somebody who is out here repping the Midwest, going hard on Wisconsin. It's chilly up there. It's KJ.
Happy to be here with you, fellas. Glad to see all of you made it out of the Pink Pony Club over the weekend, and that ACL is done for another year in Austin, Texas. Congratulations.
KJ, you and I were probably more White Pony Club guys back in the day.
I hung around the fur a little bit.
Oh, look at that. That's good. That's good, Dylan. You totally get it.
I totally understand the reference.
Different White Pony. Well, fantastic. No, I'm jealous that you're in there. You're just rocking the flannel. You're rocking it quite well. Dylan and I are still in shorts and t-shirts. Dylan, of course, is a medium guy. Did you know that?
No.
It's a callback. Another podcast.
Somebody's on their Svet journey.
No.
I've
been putting a few on, actually.
Yeah, you wear it well. Hey, bro. Me too. No one's going to ask about the audio I led with, eh?
Let's talk about it. It was our friend Mike Gundy, I believe.
He has got so much Jerry Jones in him. It's not even funny.
That's all I heard when you hear the well.
Well,
he's good for a quote a couple times a year.
He is like, I would say that when Jerry was his age, it's kind of comparable, but Jerry's always been wild ass quote guy. Like even if you listen to the old audio, even when he bought the Cowboys, he still said shit that was like made no sense. Went in circles. Everybody just was kind of nodding like, well, he's a billionaire. We better give him the benefit of the doubt. He's clearly very intelligent, smarter than everybody in this room. But yeah, no, that's Gundy apparently had to do his press conference today by Zoom because he was headbutted by a cow. You've almost been stomped out by
yeah, I was going to say,
livestock.
I can relate. Yeah, I almost got my brains clobbered out by a gaggle of horses.
What did it sound like?
Moo.
Oh.
Come on, dude. What are you doing?
I don't know.
Mike Gundy, of course, had the bit mullet years ago that turned into just his regular hairstyle, which I still think is hilarious.
Imagine doing a bit with like grooming and just leaving it.
Dave's mustache is still a bit years later.
I feel like that's throwing stones in a glass house a little bit, as you're both rocking serious stashes right now. Both look good.
That's what we're saying, yeah.
Yeah. Just absorbed
Absolutely.
it. As far as Gundy goes, I don't know if I've seen a clearer posturing to like essentially be begging to be on the next out kick. Like, he is coming to a Big Ten noon game set somewhere near you in the not too distant future. Like, I have no doubt about it. He'll be on TV in less than 18 months.
That's a great point, and one that I feel like we should have made sooner, but I'm glad you did it. Yeah, he was built for Outkick.
Oh, yes.
Much,
And he'll
yeah.
be good at it. He did a couple of those coaches roundtables back when they would do national championship and just sit there and watch film or whatever, watch the game with a few coaches. And him and Gary P ate up a lot of airtime.
Okay.
I wouldn't even try to make a P joke. I was just, my homeboy Gary Patterson.
Gary Patterson.
Gary Patterson, of course. Yeah.
Well, I thought you were making a weight joke.
No. I was just saying they talked the most.
Okay. Yeah, I do remember that coach's roundtable. I remember that was Rule, like second year Baylor, and he was really good on it too. Like he stood out. Like, oh, this guy's solid. But Gundy's built for it. That would be fantastic. You think him and McAfee? I know this would not happen. There's not room up there, but would him and McAfee be too much?
They did their first interview not that long ago, and I believe it was a full-on Gundy glazing of McAfee. Like, spent a good 5 minutes saying, my son's prepared me for this interview, and then Gundy, like, unloaded his whole clip of glazing, just celebrating McAfee's career and their, like, similarities. It could be an old clip, and maybe I saw it aggregated somewhere, but not that long ago I saw that, and I'm like, how many 0-3 in conference coaches do you see catching this many national interviews? Like, this guy is definitely answering the agent's phone for one reason. Not trying to go coach. Going to take this buyout and go sit on a panel.
Dude, we thought he was gone like every year for like the last 4 years.
I know we're not doing college football right now, but a quick mea culpa on behalf of this entire show. I think we've done this previously, most recently for Colorado. Kinda. We'll get to them later. But can't think of his name. It'd be helpful to say it right now. Iowa State's head coach. I think we
Matt
fired
Campbell.
him every single year for the last 3 years.
And I have to say, for me, it was mostly just not liking him. It had nothing to do with his coaching ability, which he clearly has. But yeah, he has a sneaky good team. A sneaky, well-rounded team.
We'll get there, but I'm staring at the standings and I'm like, fuck, haven't we said it at least a dozen times?
We did.
Fire this guy.
100%. Like they did not listen to the Too Much Dip podcast, apparently. And it was probably the right move for them.
Sorry.
Got any special guests today or anything? Or
we're working on it. That's kind of why I've got my phone. If you're looking at me, I've got I'm not texting.
Right.
I'm not texting. I'm working I'm trying to connect this thing to the Bluetooth. Which, is easier said than done here sometimes. But we power through it, man. We got ourselves a show. Anybody have any fun sports stories or just, I don't know, anybody almost like died this weekend and want to share it? Like, I don't know.
no,
Okay, cool.
no, nothing.
Yeah, usually KJ's good for one of those types of stories.
I didn't want to say it.
I didn't come to near death over the weekend.
But you did
I
go to
had an
ACL 3
intrusive
days.
thought about it, but I did not actually approach danger level. Have either of you good fellas seen the poorly animated Polar Express?
No.
I've seen the memes.
There's a brief moment in this movie where a conductor on a train swallows a pin that's very critical to keeping this whole train together. At one point in time, it spits up in the air, goes in his throat, blah, blah, blah. Tom Hanks saves the day. I was holding some screws as I was mounting some shelves this weekend. My kid came up to ask me something. My ADHD, which is, well documented, forgot about the screw part. And they weren't big screws. They were smaller, the ones that go into the shelf. Definitely approach front of tongue. It'd be exaggerating to say I was approaching, oh man, I almost swallowed a screw. But it passed the first line of defense of lip and teeth. That's too far for comfort.
Yeah, I've held a nail between my lips when I was, about to use it. And I was like, man, this probably is not the best idea. Swallowing a nail seems like it would be the worst experience of all time.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you have to go in and get that That's
Oh,
not
yeah.
one you can just export.
You don't just
naturally.
pass. I don't think you just pass that one. Yeah, it
No.
would just destroy everything on its way out. So
KJ, I had a similar weekend, but I was a sip and screw or bump and screw. I botched that. That's what happens when you're fucking texting.
you were sipping lean.
I was
bump and
trying
screw.
to give you some time. I figured you were dealing with some technical logistics there.
The guy's ready.
He's ready?
Okay, then we're good.
Look, this could go a couple ways.
It's going to go one way.
All right.
We know how this is going, David.
You want it to go one way, but it's the other way. Let's call him. Let's see if he's around.
If I had to guess, we're about to talk Dallas Cowboys football. If I had to guess,
Maybe Missouri.
maybe Missouri.
Nice comeback win. Bounce back after that.
Well, it's Micah.
Hey, we're looking for the Missouri Tigers #1 fan.
Well, hello.
There he is.
Hey, Micah.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, Dylan.
Good to
Great
hear
to hear your voice.
You're on with the
No,
Too Much
no.
Dip show.
Oh, man. That's crazy.
KJ's here and
Hi,
everything.
Zippers.
Hey, are we on speakerphone?
Oh, let's see. Sorry, my Bluetooth technology was failing me. Can you guys hear me now?
Technically, we can.
Yeah, facts.
Okay, terrific. It's great to be with you this afternoon.
It's great to be with you. KJ, you want to say hello to Micah?
Micah, glad to have you here. I wish it was on better terms coming off of, Eli Drinkwitz's first misstep last week. And then, when a good team goes overseas and just absolutely pisses down their leg and potential, you know that you're following the wrong professional sports club. Am I right? Like nothing being in London, knowing you're going to fire your coach.
Yeah, you poor bastards. I have a friend of mine I actually have another friend who's a Jags fan, and I feel very bad for you guys, for all of you. What a terrible, miserable existence that truly is.
Who did the
And,
Jags lose to?
Oh, here
look
we go.
at sports queen here.
Out of hibernation.
Nah, I just looked up the score and saw that they won. That was it.
God dang it. Randy, get in the game.
Anywho, Micah.
We're going to give you the platform, Micah.
Well, I appreciate that. As I texted the group chat yesterday about midway through the second quarter, I said, are you guys ready for the yearly tradition of the Cowboys autopsy, which normally happens after the season, but this time happens in, week 7? Yeah, it was a bad day for the Cowboys. Quite bad.
Yeah, it was.
What specifically, though? Was it one area of that just didn't perform, or?
Well, no, I would say it was the whole franchise. A failing of the entire franchise would be the best way to put it. Starting with the 82-year-old leader, who for some reason decides that it's necessary for him to have post-game press scrums, like he's some sort of politician. Why are we doing this? What are we doing? What is happening? Why in the world is this happening? I'll tell you why, guys. The Cowboys make the same mistakes over and over and over and over again, as longtime listeners of this podcast know. It's a pattern of failure. There's a few things that can be true here. One, the Cowboys are just the definition of mediocre. They are mid, as the kids say. And there's a likelihood, or a possibility anyway, the Cowboys can win, lose their way to a 9-8 record and somehow make a playoff game. I don't think that's out of the realm here. Detroit is also good. I would dare I say elite. They are a much, much better football team than the Cowboys. So a loss against Detroit should not be surprising. And I'll also get this out of the way because, I don't want to sound like Stephen A. Smith or Skip or whoever. Dak Prescott is not to blame here. This defense can't stop a nosebleed. They are incredibly thin, as the Cowboys always are when they overpay their star players. When someone gets hurt, they are destined to fail and fail badly. They have a disgusting fat loser head coach who should have been fired last year and is now, dead man walking as if he wasn't already. They could have just fired him and hired Dan Quinn last year or the year before that or the year before that and at least had an identity that makes sense in somebody who can scheme a little bit. I think it's important that we go back in time a little bit, fellas. 2 years ago, you may recall, the Cowboys led the NFL in turnover margin, which is a great thing to lead the NFL in. Typically, as we know, you don't have to be an analytics nerd to know that the team that wins the turnover battle often wins in the NFL. Now, of course, this led to a mirage of sorts that led to the Cowboys overpaying and thinking they were better than they were. And then last year, the Cowboys, of course, led the league in first half margin. And as I've said for several years now, this team is like the worst version of those Peyton Manning Colt teams that if they got ahead of you, would beat you into submission because they had Dwight Freeney and these defensive guys who were actually, they're similar to Micah Parsons, undersized for their positions, but quite dominant if allowed to simply rush the passer. But when they don't do that, they are likely to be exposed as frauds, as they were. And despite those two glaring red flags of stats that you should not be able, which are positive stats but should not be easily replicated, the Cowboys have made no real changes except paying CeeDee Lamb, who is an excellent receiver but has absolutely no one as a complementary piece, and is really probably better as a complementary piece, despite the fact that they could have just kept Cooper a couple of years ago and paid him, whatever it took. It's a roster that there is absolutely no running game. They are banged up in certain places, of course, but there is no second option at all. You could have seen it from a mile away. You've got guys who excelled in the XFL running around trying to make plays. It's just really, really a pathetic state of affairs in Dallas. And, it's quite concerning.
Don't forget Diggs just forgetting how to tackle on the perimeter there. Or just actually more
Dude,
like
that's just him.
More like choosing not to.
That's
embarrassing. Yeah. The effort isn't really great. You don't exactly have a fiery head coach that demands a certain style of play. At least they couldn't have gotten Mike Vrabel or Bill Belichick this offseason, or even kept Dan Quinn. But instead, we have this just disgusting man who just stinks. Who won a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers playing at a level that maybe no quarterback has ever played at. And also, never forget, had to recover an onside kick in a wild card game to get as far as they did that season. The Cowboys are disgraceful and a poor effort, another home ass kicking. What else is there to say, guys? What else is there?
There was a point late in the game. I forgot which touchdown it was, but the Lions extended the lead to whatever it was, 30-something. And they immediately cut to McCarthy on the sideline, and they even called it out on the broadcast. He just goes, "Wow!" Like that was his response to his team falling further and further behind. And I don't know, man. I feel like that's not what you want from your leader.
I like the clapper.
No.
Bring the clapper back. Just keep.
I don't yearn for the clapper either, but. That's neither here nor there. It's just, I will say this. I'm very thankful that I have a daughter who is wonderful, and I have decided unilaterally that she will not be a Cowboys fan. She has been a Texans fan this season, and moving forward, that she was born a Texan and doesn't have to watch this nonsense. And, I'm sure there are people listening that go, well, Jerry's 82 and he'll die soon. And we all know that's not going to happen because he's put together by plastic surgery and probably has, will to stay alive. But when he does die, his doofus son will be in charge, and it is unlikely that anything will change. It's terrible. Everything is bad. It stinks. And realistically, they could go 8-9 or 9-8, and still be in the same spot they're in with the highest paid quarterback in the history of the NFL and one of the, two highest non-quarterback division players at wide receiver, and nothing else around them at all. Nothing. Not a back, despite the fact that, half the teams in the NFL have fourth round or lower draft pick running backs that, are effective. The Cowboys don't have that. The Cowboys have nothing, and they stink, and it hurts.
It does hurt, Micah.
Well said.
Micah,
I can
it's
hear
always
the
a
pain.
pleasure, and I do feel your pain as well. But I'm happy for you that you do have a lovely family, and you know what, a one-loss Missouri team can still make some noise.
Well, there was nothing like going into College Station excited about one of the biggest road games that we've had in about a dozen years, certainly in 10 years. And personally, as someone who lives in Texas, a chance to see my team in my home state on a big stage, and then laying a tremendous egg, the likes of which was unseen. And so, yeah, football's been rough the last couple of weeks, and the Cowboys will continue to disappoint. And like I said, they're probably going to win as many games as they lose. They are mid. They are the definition of mid. They are average. Above average in some spots, but below average in most, and they stink. And they're and even if they somehow miraculously quote got hot, what is the ceiling for this team? They win 10 games and they get roughed up by the 49ers in the first round, like they always do. That's likely, or God forbid, the Packers, or whoever it is, a team that is actually a professional football team. I want to trade for Nick Sirianni, who's yelling at his own fans and shaved his head for some reason, and who's a world-class idiot, and then shows up to the post-game press conference with his children in an all-time cowardly fashion.
Force field.
move.
Columbus Day.
Indigenous Peoples Day. Yes. Yes.
Columbus Day. It's his day. Give it to him.
I mean, there are teams with worse head coaches, and there are teams with worse rosters. There are no teams with a worse general manager. There are no teams with an owner that has, in addition to his weekly radio hits, likes to have a press gaggle after every game, despite drinking enough Johnny Walker Black to, put a horse underwater.
Johnny Walker
It's
Black.
sad. It's just sad, man. There is no hope. And, I hope that the rest of America that allegedly hates the Cowboys is enjoying this. But, it's just the same punch. It's the same story. Nothing ever changes. There's nothing changed. And there will continue to be no changes unless, Jerry gives in and brings in, Bill Belichick. I mean, other than that, most likely he'll probably, fire this head coach and bring in another puppet kind of coach that doesn't want to speak to the media and won't suck up the oxygen and won't be allowed to really remake the team in his own way, because that's what Jerry likes. He likes weak head coaches that he can talk over. And, that's what we're going to continue to get unless something, miraculous happens, which is unlikely.
Well, thank you, Micah.
What moves the needle more for this football team, like getting back to relevance or getting back to being a good football team? Is it hiring a tier 1 head coach, or is it handing the GM reins over to a competent GM? Which would you prefer?
Oh, I mean, we've been saying for a generation now, we've got to get Jerry out of the equation. And, not that Jerry has defenders, because he doesn't. Nobody thinks he's a good general manager. I know people could point to the number of, Pro Bowl players or whatever it is that the Cowboys scouting department has had. And they've had, good homegrown talent that then, because they have a general manager who owns the team and wants to market their star players, then overpays their star players repeatedly in a way that no other team really does, except for maybe your Jacksonville Jaguars. They stink. And I mean, I know there's good football people in that building, but they're going to continue to make the same, they're not even mistakes. It's just the same pattern. It's the same shit they always do. And that will continue, unless there is an actual tier 1 strong-willed head coach that also oversees everything, which, how many guys are there out there? Maybe Bill Belichick, and they probably won't hire him. So, it's depressing and sad to be facing. Everything is totally predictable. You have a dead man walking coach, and
Yeah.
it's not going to do any good to fire him mid-season at this point. Although, I don't think that Jerry would do that unless things get really bad. So we're looking at an 8-9 or 9-8 season, and and more of the same.
Mike, I've got a quick question just to kind of tie all that back together, and I mean this in
Sure.
all sincerity, and David and Dylan, y'all can chime in as well. Looking ahead a little bit, the Cowboys play at Carolina on December 15th. My end question is going to be, will Mike McCarthy be there to see it? Because between now and then, they go to the Niners, to Atlanta. They play the Eagles at home. They play the Texans at home. You've got the Commanders, you've got the Giants, and you've got the Bengals. After what you've seen the
for
last
those
2
checking
weeks,
at
like-
home, that's 5 games, at least 4 games that they will likely be underdogs in.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Leading up to Carolina. I mean,
What was the
unless
question?
they lose,
I'm saying,
unless they
is
lose,
Mike McCarthy gonna
unless
be
they
there?
lose those 6 games. Yeah, I think Mike is still there. Unless they go 0-6 in that stretch, I think Mike is still there.
If they go 1-5, they're 4 whatever that math equals out to 4-9. Like they're going to be out of the playoff race by the time they get to the Panthers, if that's the case. So that's kind of the lay of the land for the Cowboys. But if they're looking for a coach, there used to be rumors. There was a lot of chatter amongst fans, amongst Cowboys Nation, about one man that they had in the past out of Seattle. He was their secondary coach, maybe their coordinator. You recall who I'm talking about here. One, Chris Richard. And if you're wondering where that good guy's been, he's coaching the secondary that only has 1 interception on the year, 10 behind the league leader, the Jacksonville Jaguars secondary. So you can have him as head coach if you want him. Chris Richard is available.
Oh, wow.
Well, that's good to
Mental
know.
note.
It's good to know. Yeah, the only other thing I'd say here is the Cowboys aren't in a position like the Jets, where one, their quarterback is an anti-vax conspiracy theory douchebag. But
Didn't know where that was going.
But at least the Jets have they still have a shot at this thing to at least make some noise by Jet standards. A playoff appearance for the Jets is a win. If the Cowboys, had a willing, a substitute coach that could step in and lead the team, which Dan Quinn could have done, which they don't have, you could make a move today and still say, like, let's salvage this season. At this point, there's nothing to go to. There's no escape hatch. The team is doomed. And, at least we'll have our Sundays free the rest of the year and Thursdays and Monday nights and everything else. Sad. That's all I can say.
Thank you, Micah.
Thank you, Micah.
We appreciate your call. We appreciate you breaking it down for us here on the Too Much Dip podcast.
Thanks.
We love you.
First time, long time. And, all I can say now is until next time, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
No plugs.
I was going to say that was an all-time record. He was on a heater and all but like one comment kept it between the lines.
Yeah, I don't
And
think
just
Aaron
no
Rodgers
plugs.
is a douchebag.
He's in too much pain
No, I'm just kidding.
to promote himself at this point.
Yeah, and it also sounded like he was in his office bathroom, which I really hope he was. Like, just trying to not be so loud that people can hear him. But I think the real question, and I didn't really want to bring this up with Micah, but do y'all think Laney Wilson will come out to Heart Like a Truck or Watermelon Moonshine on Thanksgiving?
Ooh. Heart Like a Truck is kind of a banger, so I hope that's the one.
I gotta say, one of the funnier things that can come out of a game like that is when they come back from halftime. Let's toss it down to Erin Andrews, a pro, the GOAT, the best. Let's see what she's got. She's probably got some insight from the Cowboys locker room or what went down at halftime. No, we got a special announcement. It's Laney Wilson.
Something that no one cares about right now. Like, literally no one cares about it.
It's always a party, y'all. It's not. I mean, yeah, you're right. It is. They're going to get their fucking doors blown off by the Commanders on Thanksgiving. It's not going to be a party. It's going to be an effing funeral.
Yeah.
27-6 at that point.
100%. I mean, what a disaster. And dude, I can't believe that the team that had their owner, or that routinely has their owner flying in and out of the practice field with his helicopter, just doesn't do the little things right, and doesn't tackle, and also, and it's disgraceful. And everything that Micah said is accurate, almost most of it. But that game was over when Dak threw that pick in the end zone. Not that I thought they were going to win, but a game like that, when you are severely undermanned, it's like, okay, well, maybe your offense can go out there and just score a bunch of points, and it's going to be one of those games. And he throws that pick, and it's like, well, no,
that's like a rookie pick. Like it was such an ugly pick.
It was one where I even saw the dude. I guess that I saw it as it's being thrown. I'm like, nope.
The only way that play had a chance, and that he was open in the corner of the end zone for a brief moment there. So he had the guy. You can't float it. You can't float it like that. That's got to get there in a hurry, and it's got to be well-placed football. It was just a terrible decision and a terrible pass.
Do you think it was a good idea to feature Zeke Elliott? Do you think it's a coincidence that the week he complains about touches to the media, or says like red zone touches, I need more of them, whatever, that they make an emphasis to get him the ball? The week after Rico Dowdle against a good run defense, the Steelers looked good, wasn't putting up video game numbers, but looked competent. And it's like, you know what? We're going to go back to Zeke here.
Does Zeke still have the privilege at this point in his career to ask for more touches?
In Dallas, he does, because he's Zeke. He's one of the guys. He's like the dude they drafted. It's nostalgia. It's member berries. Let's get Zeke out there. People have heard of him.
And I could say this, to play, whatever, devil's advocate here. You hand it to Zeke, you get smashed for 2 yards, loss of yards. That was third down. It was 7-3 at that point. Kick field goal at 7-6. You continue to fight on. 3rd and 5, I get it from the 7. Passing's not just a bizarre concept. But in a game where you're probably trying to shorten the game and you're wanting to stay around, I understand you're going to have people Monday morning quarterbacking either way you cut it. You're paying this wide receiver all this money. You're paying Dak all this money. Throw the ball around, blah, blah, blah. But in a game where you're severely outmanned, you probably, successful or not, want to do what you can to keep that clock running. Rico Dowdle's 5 carries, 25 yards. Zeke had 8 carries on 17 yards. I agree. Zeke has not looked the same since he hurdled that guy on the first play of the year.
It was called back.
That it was called back. That history will never remember.
No.
But again, Turpin gets 1 carry. CD got 1 carry. Dak only had 1 official carry for a yard, probably a scramble. You're failing your team if you can't create ways to not productively run the ball. You're not going to put up 100 yards, 200 yards, double it. They had 53 yards, double it. You're not doing that magically, but you need to be doing something to control the clock and shorten the game if you are going to get punked. And throwing the ball 44 times, 11 of those come from Cooper. That's just not how you're sticking around in a game where your defense is going to get their teeth kicked in.
Yeah. A really bad combination is having a patchwork O-line with some guys moved around and some guys not out there, and a quarterback who is bottom 5 in mobility, in my estimation. And you have no time to let your receivers even try. Your big playmakers, your 1 big playmaker. I will say 2. Jake Ferguson's a playmaker, I think. Get down the field because your pocket collapses and Dak has 0 mobility whatsoever. It's just so you have him just trying to force it in across the middle. It was just bad. A recipe for disaster. But, I do love the fact that I know when halftime rolls around on Thanksgiving and I'm with my family, with my boys, and the turkey's ready and we've timed it up, that we can turn it up a little bit and know that Laney's out there doing her thing, y'all. maybe playing Country's Cool Again or Wildflowers and Wild Horses, a song about a gaggle. Maybe Hang Tight Honey or 4x4 by You. Any of those tunes could be played on Thanksgiving.
And that'll be uplifting.
Yeah,
When-
I mean, that's
when
going to.
Dallas is getting their doors blown off. Could have said that in a much less appropriate way, but I'll stick to that.
What were you
Yeah.
thinking? Their dicks blown
If
off?
you have
Yeah.
maybe an Aiden Hutchinson type injury happens to one of your players, Prize Picks is the only place that can cover you with your injury guarantee.
That is okay. Yeah, that is.
That's certainly a segue.
That was tough.
Yeah, that was tough. I
Yeah,
feel
he's-
bad for that dude is an absolute dog.
He's fucking
He's so
sick.
good. He's so good. Yeah, they're gonna miss him a lot, unfortunately.
He's. I said this to Alyssa when she's like, was he like a she was asking about the guy who got hurt. I was like immediately well, he's their best player. And then I thought about it. I'm like, well, hold on. I thought about it and I was like, you could argue he's their best player
You could
easily on
definitely argue
defense.
that, Yeah.
You want to say Goff, whatever, not that important, but that fucking sucks.
Amon Ra, very good as
you
well.
you famously fractured your leg, slam dunking.
Not quite like that. Yeah, mine didn't. My foot was not just hanging off of my leg that way. That was tough to see. Yeah, I said during circling back, it looks like a clean break, and that's what you want. No ligaments were torn, anything like that. So hopefully it's a speedy recovery for Hutchinson.
What are you doing in the rundown?
My bad.
Did you forget where you were?
1,000%. I just was on another planet for a moment there.
Is that why you went into an ad read when we have?
That's what I was admitting. Like, that was my full blown admission. Like, yeah, that's on me.
Full blown emissions. What are you talking about?
Yeah, what the hell?
Yeah, gross.
Anyways, let's go.
I got to watch 2 football games yesterday because I got to the airport in Raleigh. Got to Raleigh-Durham Airport at about 10:30. Enough time to sit down and have some very average chicken tenders and a Guinness and watch there's a game on in London, the early game. Sick. Let's check in. So the 2 games I consumed were Jags, Bears, and Cowboys. Cowboys, Lions. So it was just not a good day for NFL consumption for me.
I mean, that's all the wash media teams right there.
Hey, I will say your guy, Caleb Williams, made some fucking throws.
Oh man, yeah.
He's
good.
Randy's going to see it on TikTok in like 3 weeks. He didn't see these throws.
You should have been there. Good time. Glad that the people across the pond got to see some good. So wait, who gets fired? Surely Peterson's gone before McCarthy, right?
I laugh about our conversation before. We had the discussion, like, is Sirianni going to get fired or is Peterson going to get fired? And I grumbled and was like, oh, well, watch out for the Jets. And they did it first. I think without question, it's Doug Peterson. It's kind of funny that you've got 2 former Super Bowl winning coaches, high paid quarterbacks, wildly different expectations, but also like wildly different challenges. The Jags don't have to be as good as the Cowboys should be. The Jags just have to be average, and they have just flat out disappointed. And lucky for them, they're in the middle of a back-to-back London stint. I think one of their first ones where they get to host the Patriots.
Oh,
Oh yeah, they're staying in London, right?
oh,
Yeah,
a get right game versus Drake May.
I saw a
correct.
tweet. Someone was saying how awkward it must be to be stuck in London for a week with a very fired head coach.
That's
The
really
most fired head coach of all time.
Yeah, the most fired
Yeah.
head coach of
that's
all
a
time.
really really great point.
But then, like, if you're going to fire your coach, I talked about the Cowboys road ahead. You get the Patriots over there, but Packers Thursday night after that against the Eagles. Then you get the undefeated Vikings, and then you go to Detroit, and then you play host to the Texans. Like, if they fire their coach, either way, they're probably looking at 1-5 over their next 6. Let's say he wins and instills hope, and it looks great. He's going to get embarrassed of no fault of his own. Like, they wouldn't have been favored even if they've been playing well. He's got
God, it's so bleak. It's funny, and I'm glad. It's funny watching outlets. I saw somebody on Barstool wrote something on it. I didn't read it yet, but about like the sun in AT&T Stadium, which everybody knows. Everybody who's around here knows about it, right?
That was going to be my first thing to Mike, but I forgot. Thank you.
It is just so funny that guy, Jerry Jones, who's done so much in life, is still so much of an egomaniac and is still such a child that he cannot just admit he's wrong and just say, you know what? This is ridiculous. No one thinks it's not. Like everyone thinks the same thing who is not in the Jones family. It literally cost, granted it wouldn't have mattered one iota in the game, but it cost Jalen Tolbert a touchdown. I don't know if it was a touchdown, a big play. He dropped the ball clearly because of the sun. And it's so dumb. And we see it every year. We see it when the state championship's held there every year. We always see some kid, some fucking little turd out of a 3A high school, his biggest moment of his life at this point, and just loses one in the sun. It happens. And it's so dumb that they have curtains that they use for every other event that's not football related. And for some reason, it's like, nope. This looks good, even though it doesn't even look good on TV. In fact, it looks arguably worse. It looks really, really shitty on TV.
It does look bad.
Unreal.
He has so much influence over the schedule and media rights and which game gets picked as the national game. Like the Cowboys have so much sway on that. They don't get to pick everything. But it's very basic knowledge that every 3:25 p.m. game between like week 2 and week 8 is absolutely the worst time to be in Texas Stadium for this reason. You can get into, Earth's positioning and the sun and the angle during that part.
Space
all
bar.
That is very basic. You just know. And the fact that Arby's hasn't fucking backed up a Brinks truck and dropped every bag to sponsor these
Beef
is
curtains.
a letdown of all humanity.
Some big old beefy curtains. Brought to you by the good folks at Arby's. Oh,
I don't think they need to be beef curtains.
why not? Everything's beefier in Texas, Dylan.
Yeah,
Why,
I was
why are
supposed
you
to say
doing
it's
big Tex?
What?
I guess that would be a new sponsor.
Some big old curtains, Dylan.
It would be a new sponsor.
Hang them down and block the sun.
We got a new sponsor from Arby's.
Oh, God. And if the Cowboys score like more than 40, they just curly fries fall from the rafters or just spray everybody with horsey sauce.
Yeah, I just don't know if that's in play.
You got a little horsey sauce on your face there, Dylan.
Oh,
Remember when we almost stomped you out at the ranch? All right, I'll stop.
okay.
Me and my gaggle.
This is like Hank Hill Barbaro.
Now, here we go. Here's the thing. This show is brought to you by KJ. That was a
Been waiting
comma.
all day.
Prize Picks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, KJ, so your lineups stay in play, baby. You like that? I do.
Appropriate if you were a team that just lost your headline player like the Lions did. Aiden Hutchinson against the Cowboys.
Check this out. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Is that funny?
The way you said guaranteed is quite funny to me, yeah.
Prize Picks, Dylan, is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off?
No one with a star in their helmet.
Which ones are it? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code DIP to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app, use code DIP, that's DIP, and get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Check it out. Prize Picks. Run your game. Run your game, Dylan.
Ooh.
And run these curtains down. Get this sun out of here. All right. Anything else NFL-wise? We talked on Sirianni. It's just so funny. He's just hilarious.
He's just such a scumbag.
He fucking really is.
He's a scumbag.
And there's part of me that really likes him too.
Really?
He's just such
Because
a
he's leaning into it.
yeah, but he's leaning in. Like I respect anybody who leans into it, but it's just so off-putting.
I can't get the slow motion video of him shaking his with the beanie cap on. Just what are you doing, man?
He's just the worst
He
part
just
of Italian American
Loves being
culture.
an antagonist.
Yeah.
He's from far western New York, whatever you want to call that, Jamestown, New York. I was hoping he's from like the Philly area. Either way, I'm going to claim this as being similar, given it's like adjacent to the state line. Like, he'd be a good reason that teams should be required to hire a head coach from like we'll call it 250 mile, maybe 500 for West Coast teams, radius from where their team is established. Like, I just want you to be a caricature of your team, like basketball levels. And I feel like he fits that mold.
Basketball levels. No one's referencing basketball. Randy, have you seen basketball?
I've seen basketball.
All right,
I've
good.
seen basketball, believe it or not.
I need to give that a rewatch.
I've probably
It's been
seen
a
it
while.
in the past year and a half.
Of course you have.
I feel like I'm telling myself like, oh yeah, I've seen it at a point in which like I had to say I've never seen it to a parent at some point. Like that's where that cross lines is for me. Anyways,
What an absolute
let's
disgrace.
move into college.
What an absolute disgrace the Cowboys organization is. It's so fucking miserable.
It really is.
I'm sorry.
They inspire
Yeah, let's get Belichick in there
They
and like
inspire
ruin
no
his
hope.
legacy.
no hope whatsoever.
Don't hire Bill Belichick. I don't want to ruin his legacy. Don't ruin Bill Belichick's legacy by having him come in here and just having to deal with helicopters on the practice field, tours, walking through at all hours of the day, whatever. Watching your linemen do squats and shit. I don't know if that's what goes on, but maybe.
Look on the bright side. At least you're not a White Sox fan.
Or it's a different sport, but yeah, that's fair. At least we're not White Sox.
Probably the worst team in the past 10 years of any sport.
Randy's got his
They stink, baby.
He's got his like palm on his face. He looks so sad.
He's not confident enough to say like for sure. Like that could be
No,
the
you're
case,
probably
'cause
right.
He knows,
Yeah,
like he
probably
could
though.
mix in like a
You got-
random like
the Bears
playoff run in
The
there.
Bears are
He's not
cooking on
possible.
something. You got that going for you at least.
Hey, how about that Red River rivalry? Which
yes.
is that's what we've always called it.
Let's talk a little college football. Red River Shootout has a much better ring to it. But you
Here we
can't-
go.
Of course, college football, you can't promote gun violence, so you got rid of the shootout part of it.
Hey, shout out to my Duncanville Panthers for bringing some.
DeCorian with he blasted some dude after a touchdown.
I think he just blasted the turf.
Okay.
Did he?
Did he get flagged? Do you know?
I don't know. They stomped DeSoto, which I was a little surprised to see. But they're really effing good, and DeCorian and Keelan are going to be really, really good. The next level.
Yeah, Texas OU game. State Fair, Texas, 2:30 kick.
Indeed.
I said this on Circling Back. I'm going to say it here. I have finally come around on believing that Texas is the best team in the country.
Thank you. Welcome to the bandwagon. Jeez.
They seem to be the most complete team. They now are the number one defense in the country in total defense as well as scoring defense,
Colin
giving
Simmons.
up only 6.33 points per game. And I know that y'all want to say, oh, they haven't played an offense yet. They played Michigan, OU, and Mississippi State, who just hung 31 in Athens. So they look better.
One of those three appears to be an okay offense.
Oklahoma's offense, on the other hand, is absolutely abysmal. Like it's just terrible. And granted, they had 5 receivers out for this game. That's nothing to, you got to take that under consideration.
You know what your problem is? You're not enough of a hater. If I were you, I would have already had Randy or Adam or somebody clip up from your live stream a couple weeks ago, that OU fan that was chirping you so hard in the comments.
Oh, I forgot about that dude.
Because honestly, all I could think about before that game was, man, if they lose this game, the first text I'm sending is to Randy saying, gonna need to cut that up.
Yeah. That was from the track house, right? That guy was chirping me about about the OU defense. Look, the OU defense is not bad. Texas started off very poorly. Actually, not Texas. Quinn Ewers started off very poorly. His first pass of the game, he overthrew a wide open tight end for an interception. His second pass of the game, He threw it at the feet of Isaiah Bond, who could have easily scored a touchdown from like 75 yards out. He started off really terribly. It was 3-0 at the end of the first quarter. OU was winning. OU would not score any more points the rest of the game, however, because their offense is so terrible. Anyway, this Texas defense is fucking for real. Their biggest test obviously will come this weekend when Georgia comes to town, so that should put all they haven't played anybody yet chatter to rest.
Nobody's really saying that.
You said it earlier today.
It was a different show, doesn't count, different
KJ's raising his
personality.
hand. He also said it.
I feel it, but not like not in a definitive, they aren't a great team way, if that's fair.
I think both things can be true.
6 weeks in, they've given up 38 points total. Okay? They've given up 3 touchdowns. 2 of those were in like garbage fourth quarter time. This defense is legit.
He's not even going to name the guy who's anchoring that defense.
Colin Simmons, freshman, true freshman, out of Dave's Duncanville.
My Duncanville Panthers.
He's an absolute dog. He is a star already, and he's only a freshman. Big things ahead for that young man. He is a blur off the edge. He is so fast. So good. This defense is just, I love this the best defense I've seen Texas have in many, many years.
Has anybody ever said you're a blur off the edge?
Your girl?
Oh.
She didn't say that.
Oh, okay.
She didn't say that at
She's
all.
been saying a lot.
Yeah. Quinn Ewers had a C game. And he can't play like that down the stretch if Texas is going to take down Georgia. And I'm more worried about Texas A&M at this point, I think. I feel weirdly confident in the game this weekend. Weirdly confident. Like so much so that I'm starting to worry about how confident I am in this game. I think Texas will handle Georgia fairly easily. Fairly being the operative word there. Fairly easily. I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout win. I'm saying,
I guess I can see what you mean. Like
game,
maybe not out of control, but
it's
also
not out of control
by
like domination. But like I think Texas will have the game in control in the fourth quarter.
I've never been more excited for a game day post from Landry because there's so much gold from the old Georgia teams, specifically the kid who's painted up the white.
Yeah,
I'm really excited to see
dogs.
Yeah, that's
we're getting Bevo Uga vibe. Like,
oh, for sure.
Texas found a running back in this game finally. Quintravion Wisner finally broke through, had an awesome game, averaged like 8 yards a carry against Oklahoma's defense. He looked awesome. Play of the game for me. What are you smirking about?
Nothing you said.
Silas Bolden, transfer receiver from Oregon State, who hasn't gotten many touches this year. But there was a play in the second quarter. Texas was up 7-3. Wisner breaks a long run, about 40 yards, fumbles it at about the 2-yard line. Ball's rolling to the corner of the end zone. He has no reason to be trailing this play. No reason at all. He is way behind the play, and he's just trailing it, just running his ass off down the sideline. Ball gets loose, and it's about to roll out of bounds. Of course, that would be a touchback. Oklahoma ball, points off the board, and the dude jumps on the ball. Texas up 14-3. Huge play from that dude.
It's little things, KJ.
It's a little thing. That's a culture play, man. Love to see it.
That would have sent it into halftime most likely.
Yeah.
7-3. But Texas got the ball back again and scored again before half, going up 21-3.
He gets a game
How did
ball.
they get the ball back? Remind me again. After that
fumble.
touchdown?
Anthony
Another
Hill,
fumble by
my dog Anthony Hill, linebacker, who's just playing his ass off. Denton Ryan. Dude is just having a monster season and had a monster game. He had 2 sacks, a forced fumble, something like 8 tackles. The dude is just all over the field. He's awesome.
Is that the guy who played like tight end? We watched his like tight end clips at some point. He's just standing over people, one hand catching stuff in high school.
No,
I don't know. I'll go look it up myself.
I don't think that was Anthony Hill. I think he just played linebacker.
Yeah, just looking at how the game played out, because I didn't watch a ton of this game, I'll admit. Whenever I got wind that OU was missing 5 wide receivers, I think you mentioned it, like then it became like, okay, Texas is going to win. And it was just going to become a question of like, how good does Quinn look? Like that was kind of in question, and then it went away and like, great, whatever. I think it's commendable to win any rivalry game in that setting on a neutral field on a hot ass day No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Would you be willing to concede that my gripe going into today or coming out of yesterday, whatever, like Oregon, it won't matter next week, but like Oregon should be ranked number 1.
Because they beat Ohio State?
They just coming off the Ohio State win, like that'll change in 6 days. It does not matter. I just feel like if we're just going off of great, this team just beat and dominated a team, not dominate, but won a game over a top ranked team. Like, I don't think it makes sense not to say like, hey, we value this win over that.
Yeah.
Granted, Oregon sucked week 1, week 2 against like Idaho. And
That's
all those teams.
what's
So,
holding them back to number 2, I believe. Because obviously Oregon has a better quality win than Texas has. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah,
Ohio
that'll
State.
change again in
Ohio
6
State.
days. I don't think you're wrong about Georgia.
Ohio State is probably the most overall talented team in the country, I would imagine. They have so much talent. That's a huge win. Of course, it was at home, but still. But yeah, that they have looked flawed early on, as you mentioned, and that is why they're probably being held back a little bit. But I don't have a huge problem with someone saying that Oregon deserves to be number 1. Big deal, whatever.
Exactly. It won't matter in 5 days. Like,
Texas
I
has
don't
looked
mean
like
it
the most
about Texas.
well-rounded team in the country, though.
How much of Oregon or any of the night games did you see, or either of you see? Did either of you see?
Honestly, last 10 minutes of LSU, Ole Miss, and last 10 minutes of Oregon.
Same.
Oklahoma, Ohio State.
About the same for me.
Watching on my phone in a bar.
Did you see any, even on another screen, of the Colorado game? And I know I've been on my trip a lot, like
I've
crazy in
not.
Colorado.
I know they played Kansas State very well.
Kansas State looks very talented. Like, they responded to every challenge. Colorado's defense looks really good, weirdly enough. And like, I've finally gone back and like looked at what happened in the Nebraska game. Like, they're a decent enough team. I don't think they're doing anything worthwhile nationally, but Kansas State knocked out Travis Hunter, or not like knocked him out, but he hurt his shoulder on a play. And they also lost another wide receiver. That's, I would say, a big part of why Colorado loses that game. The only thing I bring this up for is those 2 big games y'all watched. I watched them as well. Major effing shout out to whoever the hell's putting butts in seats in Colorado and whoever the hell's attracting every single celebrity. Like DeAndre Jordan, Russell Westbrook's there, Carmelo Anthony. I know I'm naming all basketball players right now. CeCe Sabathia. There were like a dozen celebrities. It looked like the Source Awards on the sideline. It was.
I don't understand the reference.
Well, it was a night game in Colorado. They were wearing their black uniforms. It was a blackout theme throughout the night. But people were there the entire time cheering. Absolutely. Like, it gave nighttime SEC vibes, and that's Colorado. That was cool.
KD was there too, wasn't he?
KD was there. I'm like struggling to think of like any less melanated celebrity that I saw.
Wasn't Jake Paul there? I made that up.
Exactly. Logan Paul was rumored to be in the building. You want to do Ole Miss before roast Will Howard?
I have a Quinn theory I just want to put out real quick.
Oh, go ahead.
Fuck, this isn't fair. And I am based this on what I've heard about Texas OU and just what Dylan described. Is there a chance he's just kind of like, he's just playing this out? Like, he knows next levels, pretty much no matter what, he is going to be a first round pick. And he's just kind of playing it out, and it's not that big of a deal to him.
Oh, I don't get that vibe at all.
Okay.
I think he is as fantastic as he has looked at times. He has some bad habits that he can't consistently stay away from, and it's mostly with his footwork. He'll sometimes fall back to poor footwork, and that's why he had those 2 really bad passes to open the game. Maybe a bit rusty, I don't know, but he'll have games where he doesn't miss a single throw. Alabama last year, Michigan this year, he looked fantastic. He stepped up in some really big games, but it's OU last year, he also started off really, really shaky.
Was the Alabama game last year where he got hurt, but before he got hurt, he looked like insane?
No, that was 2 years ago.
That was two.
That
Okay.
was his freshman year.
Okay.
Garrett Gilbert came in, right?
That's
No,
different.
that
Long
was
time ago.
Very long time ago.
No. It was Major Applewhite who came in.
No, I think Quinn Ewers, he's not going to be the first quarterback off the board, and the difference in money between being a top 5 pick and a slated between 25 and 30 it's a big difference. I think he still has a lot to play for at the when you talk about the NFL draft.
That's fair.
I think Cam Ward's like projected to be top quarterback in terms of ranking. Not Nebraska, goddamn, Arizona wide receiver Tetro McMillan is like number 2 overall, and then
Travis Hunter?
Travis Hunter is like number 1 overall.
Shador is still,
and
like
that's
a
not
top 10
like based
projection.
on like teams picking. So like we know quarterbacks will rise up, but yeah, Shador will be up there too. Again, last Colorado thing. I'm not a Colorado fan. They just end up being the last game on TV. Shador was like 31 of 33 or 34 in like going into the clutch moments of the game, getting hit off a bunch of throws and having a couple drops mixed in. Like Pat Shurmur's getting him to understand how to take care of the ball, and then he's making plays. Like I believe he's quality. It's not just all shine. Real quick to wrap up the Oregon Ohio State conversation real quick. Ohio State's really, really good. Will Howard, feel bad for the dude, but there was such a collective what the fuck moment. I'm sure it happened in the bar when he slid with no time on the clock.
Mm-hmm.
But I briefly felt for the guy before being like, man, if this wasn't Oregon, how much shit would fans be talking directly to his face as they rush the field? Like any other aggressive environment, and somebody's like baiting a fucking right hook from him.
Yeah.
Will Howard is fine. Like he's fine. Like Ohio State, as talented as that team is, they are lacking at quarterback.
Kyle McCord looks okay in Syracuse. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah. He's just fine.
You think OU could have used Dylan Gabriel?
Yeah, I do. I do think so. Yeah. Apparently Jackson Arnold was like going to transfer had they not gotten rid of him. And you see how that turned out. Jackson Arnold is a deer in headlights still.
His story has yet to be written.
He will transfer at the end of the year.
You think?
Yeah, I do. I think he'll probably go on to have a pretty good college career somewhere else.
Damn. Okay.
He needs
Looking
reps.
back at how many people, including myself, roasting Cliff Kingsbury for fumbling that Texas A&M quarterback room that featured Manziel and Kyler and then Kyle Allen. Like, and obviously Manziel proved to be successful, but then like Kyler leaves, Kyle Allen leaves, and then once Manziel was done, like you had nothing. Like you couldn't keep one around and keep one happy. And nowadays, like you're just not going to be able to do it. Don't care who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you're Quinn and Arch.
Now that especially now that it's so easy to transfer, it's like, yeah, you can't, you got to start your stars or they're going to bolt.
Are we gonna play the game? Who is the Backest?
In the moment, I felt real good about who was the Backest.
No, I like this game. I like this game.
I especially like this game because Texas is not listed because it's just a given at this point. And that makes me happy inside.
Who is the Backest? Presented by yours truly. It's a question about the college football teams we may have given up on, forgot about, talked shit about, and wrote off early in the year. Featuring the following teams who all lost in their first or second game. First or second game of the season. Clemson got demolished by Georgia, has not batted an eye ever since. Like won by 30 plus every single game. Somehow questionably ranked behind Iowa State, if we're going to talk about like rankings again. Notre Dame, who dropped a game against Northern Illinois, again, has dominated. They've got a lot of injuries. LSU, if we want anything to say about that game, I hope y'all got Brett's take from it and go to circling back for that if so. Or Texas A&M. I had it on here or America, mostly because I love my country, but also because Navy and Army are ranked, and that's tight. But they're not really a part of this discussion. So Clemson, Notre Dame, Texas A&M,
Sleep
or LSU.
on Army.
Ooh, it's a good question.
I will admit, I was so out on Clemson after week 1 that I haven't thought about them. And then I'm at the bar trying to kill time Saturday before this wedding, and I glance over, and one of the UNC game's on, of course. Wolf, by the way. And
Yeah, they lost their quarterback, though.
I know, but
Clemson's going to win the ACC
Clemson-
and get a top 4 seed.
I'm watching Clemson and just like, okay, they look like a good team. Like not just a team that should win the game, but like a well-oiled machine at that time.
You gave me 2
We'll see
thumbs
in
down,
Charlotte.
KJ. Who's going to win the ACC?
We'll see him in Charlotte. I'm just kidding. No, we're not
Rhett
ready for that
Ashley
smoke.
and the Ponies. That's going to be a fun game.
No, Miami, Pitt, SMU follow them up, and I think Clemson's still head and shoulders above like being a complete team against those others. So yeah, Clemson is up there.
There's going to be a lot of people who tweeted that no matter what, and this was tweeted by people after Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois, that a team that loses to Northern Illinois should never be considered a top 12 team. And like you're kind of looking at it now, you're like,
A&M is benefiting right now from just short memory syndrome because they just absolutely just manhandled Mizzou, which I think is a pretty fraudulent team. A&M looks really good suddenly, but before that game, they were just kind of there.
26-20 on Bowling Green, and they were behind in a bunch for that game.
Yeah, so
33-20 against Florida.
let's see if
Granted, it was
A&M
at Florida.
can continue to play as well as they did against Mizzou before I start to really give them too much credit. But they did look really, really good in that game. Yeah,
I
I'm
think
gonna
it's a
go
great
Clemson.
point. I 100% agree with you. Like their whole reputation at number 14 is built off of
Yeah,
winning
that game
at home versus
because it was a top 10 opponent right at the time. Mizzou was like 9 or something, I believe.
off of preseason ranking, basically. And Mizzou, their best game was barely beating Vandy. They beat Vandy by 3, and they beat Boston College by 6 before that game.
So they may not be as
So
good.
going
as,
back to my bitching and moaning about rankings, like that's the impact it has on this year, is that we overinflated Mizzou.
LSU appears to be. I feel like they're in that category of team that can beat anybody. Who's their one loss? USC? Yeah, USC. We all laughed about it. Not us, but a lot of people, they did. Everybody just wants to shit on Brian Kelly, which I understand. But they're going to Fayetteville. They've got, okay, hold on. Yeah, they got Arkansas, who I think is also in that category. No, Arkansas I don't think is as good as LSU. I'm not saying that, but I'm not sleeping on the Tigers. How about that? Brett did not give us his take on circling back, but that is a game where you're watching, and from everything I read and having only watched like the last 10 minutes, like I said, you're wondering how Ole Miss lost that game. Just bizarre.
The impact of being at LSU is a lot. And obviously, blah, 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 toughest stadium. But like, you end up kicking a field goal in overtime. Small margins. Garrett Nussmeier, good. Missed as many throws as he hit, but he was right on the mark when it mattered to win the game in overtime. Like, I think it was kind of matter of like circumstance situation. Like Lane Kiffin, God damn it. Lane Kiffin is somehow becoming like increasingly easier to root for. And I kind of wanted them to pull that game out. So, I'll look forward to hearing Brett's take on what it's like to be in Death Valley for a big game like that.
The fan base is apparently grown increasingly hostile towards Lane. Because when you're the coach, you come into this season with national championship aspirations, and you're also the coach who's active on social media and TikTok. When you don't perform at that level, then you got to find something. You don't want to argue about like the coach's X's and O's. You're like, well, he did a fucking TikTok with his daughters. What the hell? He's with the cheer. Like, what's his focus? He's just focusing on the Lane brand. So that's a lot of
his
the
dog into the office every day.
Yeah.
Spend less time on TikTok, more time in practice.
Yeah. No.
And he's not missing practices, guys.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not. But that is a sentiment that's growing there.
Head coach, Dallas Cowboys. Lane's return to the NFL. Yes or no?
No.
Makes more sense than Bill Belichick. If you really, really think about it, it makes so much more sense.
Yeah. Between those two, I would vouch for Lane. Like, I'll take Lane in Jacksonville, and I don't want him in the NFL.
Not saying he's the better coach.
I think he's the kind of coach
But-
that is going to do well if he can accumulate his own talent and not deal with an NFL roster. That's a whole
I
different
think he's the
ball
kind of
wax.
coach who would enjoy being able to be paid and have a lot of attention showered on him. I don't know that he would do well with like the scrutiny that follows Cowboys head coach or any NFL head coach. Like, he would enjoy the circus of the Cowboys and do well.
A name to watch
minus the heat.
Name to watch though for Dallas Cowboys. GJ Kinney out of Texas State. I'm kidding. Boy, that second loss for them Bobcats looks really bad now because now they're rolling. And they're going to probably win out. And you're going to be like, they're going to win the conference. And you're going to be look back at that Sam Houston loss that you just fucked around. Anyway, that's neither here nor there.
$8 million loss.
Do you want to talk baseball? We can just touch on it. I don't know. Did you guys watch any?
I didn't watch a single pitch over the weekend. Not one.
I'm aware of who is playing. I can tell you that much. I'm proud to know like who's advanced the champion.
I turned on my Tigers.
Yes.
I turned on my Tigers and just in time to see a very ill-timed grand slam. And congrats to the Guardians. Last night, I was so disgusted with football that I'm like, you know what? This household, we watch baseball.
We
So
have,
it was absolute blowout. Dodgers just loading them up, putting 2 on the Mets early.
They are playing right now.
Give me a score.
I don't know the score, but they're playing right now. And also tonight we have the first game of the ALCS.
1-0 Mets.
Top of the second. 1-0.
1-0 Mets. All right. Let's even that up.
Oh, you're just rooting for a good series.
Yeah, I want a good series.
Rooting for the lads.
I don't care for any team that's left.
You know what? I'm rooting against the Mets with all my fury because I walked by a guy in Southern Pines who was wearing a Mets t-shirt and he looked real like New Yorkie and I was like kind of hungover and like going to get coffee and I go, Mets, baby. And he just fucking looked at me. So fuck you.
Don't you have to kind of respect a Mets fan though? When you're from the same city that is home to the New York Yankees.
Yeah.
It's like,
I thought
could
they
easily
have
hop
like
on
a
this.
specific call out, like "Let's go Mets."
I could easily hop on this bandwagon with the other New Yorkers and pull for a team that's won 27 World Series titles.
Yeah. Hey, look, what you just said is fair.
You got to respect them a little
You've
bit.
made points.
Can you imagine the
Kind of like being a
Cowboys,
White Sox,
Longhorns,
not quite
Yankees
the same.
fan?
Not quite the same as being a White Sox fan.
Cowboy, wait. Yeah, that's not good, KJ. Hey, can I
If
give
you were
a
the Cowboys, Longhorns, White Sox fan, Dylan? I don't know. We could not let that go.
Can I give a thumbs up to the to something? This is not on the rundown, but big thumbs
To
up.
SoPi?
The Dallas Stars and the Victory Plus app. They are no longer with Bally's, which we knew. Fuck Bally's. I watched the Stars game last night for free. Just downloaded an app. This isn't and I was just. I knew it was like something that I could do, but it just felt so nice to do it. I haven't got to watch a regular outside of like a nationally televised game. I have not watched a Stars game that wasn't a playoff or nationally televised game in a long time. So that was really dope. And that's all. That's Dave's Dope Corner of the Week.
The debut of
Dave's Dope Corner of the Week. I think it's got legs. We'll see.
of the week. Okay.
I like it better than Who's Backest.
I like Who's Backest.
Who's back? That was fun.
That's a good segment. All right, let's run it back.
Of course, Run It Back is a segment during which we talk about what we already talked about. Dave was bumping Screw over the weekend. The Cowboys have a fat, disgusting loser head coach, says Micah. He also said he's a disgusting man who just stinks. Jerry Jones drinks enough Johnny Walker Black during the game to put a horse underwater. I don't know what that means.
I don't know if Johnny Walker Black's a thing. Isn't it blue?
I think it's Johnny Walker Blue.
I think there's a
what he
black,
drinks.
too.
I
There's
think
a
black
black.
is.
I think it's red, black, and
green,
blue.
black, and blue. But
Yeah.
blue is the one that he meant.
Blue's the high dollar one.
Okay. I like the idea of Jerry just drinking the mid stuff.
Was it a good idea to feature Zeke Elliott? The Cowboys need a beef curtain sponsorship from Arby's, brought to you by Big Tex.
Well, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
The Colorado sideline looked like the Source Awards.
That was Elvis.
And finally, the debut of Dave's Dope Corner of the Week.
Can you do the other one again? Just so we have it for clip purposes?
Which one?
The Source Awards.
I'd rather not. That was from KJ. That was brought to us by KJ, the only one on this show who can
The
get away with
Source
saying it.
Awards.
Run it back this week, the segment in which we remind you of all the things that we hoped you'd forget about.
And that concludes Run It Back. A fun one today, guys.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
When my team wins a big game, it's good.